You saw the thumbnail. You already know how to build this. So let's go over all the other details about this really effective kelp farm. So, firstly, why? Why would any sensible person build a kelp farm? Previously, kelp was utterly useless. However, with the introduction of crafters, you can actually first smelt the kelp and then convert it into these dried kelp blocks. We need 9 of these. And the reason why these are so powerful is because they are much more efficient than growing bamboo. It's in the same amount of area, and especially when it comes to the same amount of plants, you are producing much more fuel. That's fairly nice, right? So what else? Unlike bamboo farms, these things don't have the issue of items getting ever stuck in them. If you ever tried any sort of bamboo, sugarcane, even melon farm, pretty much all of them have some small percentage chance of items getting stuck in them, which produces much more lag. So that's another reason. These ones are also completely resistant to the sort of stuff you can have happened with bamboo farms. I have already shown you a couple of these, but all of them rely on a system that makes sure they only get triggered once. And this system can potentially get stuck in the wrong position. Like this. Of course, it doesn't happen from the growing of the bamboo, but for example, if you unload the thing, you can get these stuck. That never really happens with these ones, because we fully accept the fact that it extends twice, since here we can actually get the input from the bottom instead of from the top, due to the kelp plant here at the bottom changing state when one grows above it. That means we don't need the extra piston, we don't need the extra activations, which also saves a bunch of lag. It also makes the collection very simple. You can also see, you can sometimes get cases like this. Don't worry, because all that needs to happen is for this kelp to grow one block, and then the piston pushes it out. This happens when a kelp grows while another item happens to be flowing towards the top right next to it. This obviously can be completely mitigated by having layers of this in between, but that is less space efficient. The soul sand here makes it much less likely due to the kelp traveling fast upwards. And again, it's self-cleaning, so even if that does happen, you can see that one was pushed out, or this one. What is also really nice about these is they don't require any flying machines. You might have seen some farms like this, and I have shown a few in the past. You can basically convert the sugarcane ones to work for kelp or bamboo really easily. They require some kind of machine to constantly be checking the time and then sending the flying machine back and forth, and then have some sort of collection on both ends. This is perfectly tileable. You can basically make these really simply. They don't break unlike the flying machines on servers or when being unloaded. I guess there is a really small chance this could break when unloaded, but it's still way less likely than the flying machine, and it's also much easier to fix. And they especially aren't broken by the server plugins, especially things like Spigot or Paper or whatever it's called, which loves to absolutely destroy any kind of clocks for measuring time or flying machines. Or just periodically stops them. This has no limitations like that. This also doesn't waste any growing time. These things, as soon as they grow, they get broken. You don't need to wait for some clock to finish or for some detection system to detect, I don't know, 10% of them have grown and then it cuts them down. No, this immediately cuts them down. This is also insanely compact. This is 3x3. At least 3x3 stackable, because it's 4 high, but this dirt block on which you can place the kelp can be nicely layered like this. You can obviously do this if you want to save up some quartz. This also works really nicely. You cannot use, for example, a node block here, because then it would get triggered by the other ones. Technically, you could do it. If you don't mind that, I can show you what that would do. Probably better to do it with a trapdoor. Yeah, you can see that they are now getting activated way too often. So yeah, I guess unless you really mind the lag, but it also reduces the efficiency, I think, slightly, because when the piston is extended, the kelp cannot grow. For the usage of the fuel, because that's also something, you don't really need much fuel for most things, except one of the most broken mechanics of the newer versions of Minecraft, where you can smelt things and thereby create XP. You can smelt either this kelp directly, or dry it, I guess would be the more appropriate terminology, and get XP from that, or you can combine this with a cactus farm for producing cactus dye, which gives you much more XP than most normal items. I don't know why Mojang did that. And the advantage of that is you can have such a farm build up, you can then run up to it and immediately grab the XP. You don't have to wait for, you know, zombie pigmen to die or enderman being killed or anything like that. And also has no limit. You can get like level 1000 instantly, as long as the farm has been running for a long enough time. And of course you can smelt all the other things. You can turn your cobblestone generating farm to a stone generating farm, because you also attach a kelp farm to it with some furnaces to convert the cobblestone into stone, which if you are wondering, is the fastest way to get stone, because you are limited to cutting down 72,000 stone per hour, even with instant mining, but the farm can produce easily 10 times as much. So how do you build this? I would highly recommend you to build this inside of an ocean. You ideally want to build it, of course, with some armor to allow you to breathe in the ocean, or you can also just build these three wide rows. Because as with all one-wide tellable machines like this, you first want to make the really long rows of this, and then you want to stack them. I didn't do this here because for demonstration purposes, obviously. And ideally, you wouldn't stack them like this, you would make really long lines of these, like 100 block long, and so on. If you're doing getting in the ocean, you probably need depth strider and something to make you not die from suffocation in water. But it also saves you massive amounts of time for placing the water with the water buckets. If you don't want to do it in an ocean, or you can't for some reason, you first should probably fill up a large area with water by placing the water sources in a diagonal, several layers on top of each other, and then build the farm inside of that. Because it's much slower to run around with buckets of water than just placing rows of blocks even underwater. And you can basically build this at surface level, right? Like you can have this top thing on this top layer here be exactly at the surface of the ocean. These soulstone blocks are not mandatory, it works without them, especially if you are making this less tall, but I would highly recommend them for more efficiency and just to be really sure no item ever gets stuck here permanently. As for this collection system, all you really need to do is you need to have glass or some kind of block on top to prevent the items from shooting upside up to the sky or something like that, because they have some sideways momentum, so they could like fly up and slowly like fall down into this and get stuck on the ice. That's why you also need ice, because this isn't quite long enough, like this is only 3 blocks for the items to accelerate. You can also put the ice somewhere like this. You can move this basically horizontally if you want to. And at the end, if you want to collect them from a long row, all you really do is something like this. For those, I will just build this out for those who have never seen this. You will have issues with the limited range of water. So you simply do something along these lines. That way you can make this as long as you want, because now even if the kelp would fall on top of here, it would get pushed. The water here should mostly cancel out any of their sideways momentums, so that shouldn't be a problem. You don't really need to fear some kelp flying into this tiny gap here. You can also use things like the half slabs, or even if you want to be really fancy, you can use upside down headless pistons, which are paradoxically perfectly sized for items to go below them. Okay, I think this will be all for this video. I wanted to do something a bit less demanding on you guys, since it's pretty tricky to handle an advanced storage tech contraption every couple days. And also, this is, in my opinion, exceedingly useful, and I covered most of the storage tech things you really need to build a storage system of your own. And I wanted to also keep my channel a bit up to date with the latest developments. And since I realized this with the crafters, I thought this would be a really nice thing to show you. As far as I'm aware, nobody has built something like this, or at least in this sort of configuration. Maybe someone did, I don't know. This is way too simple to reasonably claim as some kind of my invention. But I still think at least some of you will benefit from it. So please like, share, subscribe, tell your friends. Leave me some comments on how to improve it. Maybe you realize something I didn't when I was building this. And have a nice day.